So here I am sitting with Burt Beckwith. Hello, Burt.
Hello. Buenos dias.
Yeah, right. Buenos dias. Burt is a Grails committer and used to be, formerly a Grails team member, right?
Sí.
And he's also a plugin developer, a known one. And I've understood you are really interested in this persistence topic, right?
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
Because it's a very important part of Grails.
Yeah.
Because typically you need to store data, retrieve data, and doing that efficiently,
yeah.
and using transactions, and making that as because it's very easy if you are not careful.
Yeah.
To slow your application down by doing your persistence incorrectly. So we have most people who use Grails are familiar with Gorm, which is the API that we use to store data. And there's several different implementations of Gorm. One that goes to regular databases, and then there's the NoSQL Gorm implementations that go to MongoDB or Redis. And so it's a really big part of application development and a big part of Grails, and that's always been interesting to me. The original Gorm was based on Hibernate, which is a library that we use for persistence. And so I had used a lot of Hibernate and Spring before coming to Grails. So that was something that I sort of gravitated towards when I used Grails. And
yeah. So. The talk you've already given today here at Greach was about security concerns, right? You're working currently with these security topics. You're facing these security problems, or?
Yes. The first plugin I actually worked on was the CG plugin, which it was then renamed to Spring Security. So that's the most famous and the most common security framework to be used in Spring applications and in Grails. And so I eventually took over the development of the plugin. The original developers didn't want to use it, didn't want to work with it anymore. So when I came along, they were very happy to say, "Okay, it's yours now." And it's been a very popular plugin. So we've done several versions, revisions, and it's grown from one plugin to actually a family of plugins. So it's really a plugin that takes other plugins.
Yeah.
So there's support for storing your authentication information in the database, or in LDAP, or OpenID, or Facebook, or anywhere you want, really. So there's a whole family of plugins now, and I wrote probably 8 or so of them, I think. But the great thing about those plugins is that there are several plugins that were written by other people, and for the most part, they never asked me for help on how to extend to do the plugin their way. They just figured it out, and so I of course have helped them and worked with them. But that's been really fascinating for me, is to have this thing that I kind of worked on almost exclusively, but then for it to become sort of a family of plugins, and the current one that's really sort of the buzz, the cool security plugin is the Spring Security REST plugin. Alvaro created that, and so that's really great, and he's been doing a great job with that. And so security is obviously it's very important for applications. You pretty much always need some sort of security to protect the areas of the application that shouldn't be accessed unless you have permissions and all that. So it's a lot of work. It's fascinating because if you get that wrong, if you get persistence wrong, then your application is slow, and it's usually going to be pretty obvious that you messed it up. But if you do security wrong, you may not find out until you realize that people have been stealing your data for a long time. So it's very important that you get it right. And I'm currently it's been taking forever, but I'm finally in the next couple of weeks going to be able to release the new 2.0 official version of Spring Security, and then now we have Grails 3, which changed everything. So all the current plugins don't work with Grails 3. So then I get to switch gears and start writing the version of the Spring Security plugin that works in Grails 3, and then I get to convert all my other plugins to that, and then all the other developers who have their plugins have to convert their plugins to use the Grails 3 approach.
Loads of work.
So yeah, but fun stuff, and it'll be very interesting, I think. So.
How many plugins have you developed?
Oh, dozens. I haven't kept count for a long time, but it's more than 50, maybe 60. But I also have this thing that I do. It's sort of I don't know why I do it, but whenever people, so we have a process now when if you want to create a plugin, there's an approval process. And we just want to look at it and make sure that the idea makes sense. And because quite often what will happen is, if you look at other frameworks in Rails or jQuery, or quite often there are 5, 10 different plugins that all sort of do very similar things. And so it can be very confusing as a user to know which one should I use. Because you might like that this one has 90% of the features that I want, but this one has 80% of the features, different features, and they overlap between the two of them. They have everything that I want, but I can't use them together. So I have to pick one. So what we've always tried to do is allow people to do multiple plugins, but if possible, try to get the plugins developers to work together. And one of the earliest examples of that was the WeSeam plugin. It's a CMS plugin. And that was actually merged from 3 different CMS plugins into one big one. So we try to make sure that, if you're going to suggest a new plugin, that you don't, you're not reinventing a wheel that's already there. Can you contribute, instead of creating your own plugin, can you contribute to mine or contribute someone else's? So we get several plugin submissions a month, and quite often when I look at the code, I don't like the way that it's done. It's not, maybe there's real problems with it, or maybe it's just kind of messy. So I usually do what we call a pull request. So so I copy the code and I make the changes, and then I send the changes to you, and then you can approve them, you can accept them or not. And that's really where I've done the most. I have hundreds of repositories on GitHub now, and most of them are because I forked all these repositories, so I probably have 400 repos on GitHub, and I'll bet 300 of them are plugins that I either made some small changes, and in some cases I've completely rewritten the plugins. So really I've officially done probably 50 or 60, but I've also done most. So I basically wrote all the plugins.
You get busy.
But it's fun because I don't have to do it, so there's no schedule. And I can choose to do it or not, and I can choose when to do it.
That's a great.
So when I'm sort of stuck in a problem, and I'm frustrated, and I need to take a break from what I'm doing, then I usually do these. I go over and I'm like, I can just do this because that's usually going to be simple, and it's just sort of mechanical work, and it's simple usually. And then I use that as a break, and then I send that off, and then I go back to my real problem, and I say, all right, let's fix this thing now. And so.
Like a relaxing thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I code for relaxation sometimes. So.
Thank you for this time, Burt. Very kind.
Gracias.
Thank you.